I want to thank all of you for watching, and I want to thank all of these filmmakers for joining us for the Q&A. I'm going to call on each of you, introduce yourself, and tell us what film you made. Martin?
My name is Martin Vavra, and I'm in Portland, Oregon, and I directed and wrote Benehooy.
And Katie?
Hi, I'm Katie Delaloye, and I'm in New York, and I co-directed Witches of Bushwick.
And Lewis?
And me, I am Lewis Taylor, and I wrote and directed Sleep Tight.
Nicholas?
I'm Nicholas Hendrickson, and I directed First Night. And I'm Joseph David Bowes, and I produced First Night.
Neil?
I'm Neil Green, and I was the Benehooy in Benehooy.
Kenniki?
I am Kenniki, and I wrote and directed Knock Knock.
Joe?
And I'm Joe Pardavila, and I co-wrote, produced, and directed with Catherine Delaloye, The Witches of Bushwick.
Excellent. And we are just joined by Kate. I can't say your last name. Hi, Kate. Can you hear us? I think your audio is muted. I think your microphone is off.
Classic Zoom move. She's muted. There it is.
Yeah. Hi. So we're. Hello. Thank you so much. And you're in Poland.
I'm in Poland. Greetings from Poland, Central Europe.
And we're just introducing ourselves and telling which film we made.
Yes, so I've made The Attachment short horror movie, and you know that's all I've made.
Excellent. So I guess I'm just gonna go around and ask each of you, get started off with a question here. Martin, in your director's statement, you said that the Benehooy took you kind of a long time to finish, or kind of a long time to shoot and finish. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It took a long time to get it started, which it shouldn't have. It's only a 3.5 minute movie, but for whatever reason, every time I had people working on that project, they wanted to take it over and turn it into their own thing. And it was meant to be like this simple, fun, shoot with friends, even part of a greater bunch of like 3-minute horror shorts, just to be doing something and get things going. And I am shocked at how that 3 minutes turned into 6 years of trying to get that silly thing shot.
Oh my goodness. So how long did it take actually once you started shooting to finish it?
We shot the whole thing in 2 evenings. The first evening was 4 hours, and minus the makeup for night 2, that was 4 or 5 hours, I believe. The second day was with the monster Neil, and I think it was 8 hours of makeup, Neil, something like that, 7 hours of makeup to get in.
I think all in all, including getting out of it, it was about 5 to get into it and a couple hours to get out of it.
Yeah, but just 2 short evenings. And we filmed it during the longest day of the year. It was almost a year ago. It was June 22nd and 23rd last year.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that was like, we didn't even start shooting. We couldn't drop the hammer on anything until like 11 at night.
Oh my goodness. So for those of you who are not familiar with how Portland, we're pretty high latitude. So during the height of the summer, during the solstice and everything, it stays light till like 10:30 at night, and it's not really full dark until shortly after that. So it's so you had a very small window that you could have full dark in.
It was very, very narrow, yes.
So Catherine, I'm just going to move down the line. Did you also write and co-direct, or?
Yeah, we did everything together pretty much. So we wrote it, and then we directed it, and we produced it. So
okay,
yeah, it was an adventure, and then I also acted in it. So another layer to it.
Great job too.
Yeah, it was a lot, and we shot it last year too, about like July.
Yeah, it was a heat wave in New York, and we shot it upstate New York. And the funny thing was, the house that you see in the film, there was no air conditioning. So every room we shot in, it was about 110 degrees. Our makeup and production crew did an amazing job not to make it look like everyone was just
We were
completely
sweating
drenched.
so much.
Everyone was just drenched the entire time. And it was funny too, because that summer was actually a pretty mild summer in New York. But for some reason, when we shot the film over 2.5 days. It was 100 degrees every day, no air conditioning, but the crew did an amazing job.
Oh my goodness. And tell us a little bit about your makeup effects in the demon that happens in the barn. Hopefully everyone's watched the film before they watch this Q&A.
It was really good.
It was,
that was
again,
cool.
like as an independent film, like there is only so much you can do with like a given budget. So we were just like really lucky that we had these two amazing makeup artists who kind of just took our vision and just made it there in the barn. They just came up with it. You know, we had drawn some sketches of it and like done some makeup tests. But then when he came down to it, we only had one attempt. And he was like, well, hopefully it's going to look like a demon, you know? And it did. So yeah, it was about, I don't remember how long it took. Like,
it was an all-day process, yeah.
It was like 8-9 hours while they were doing other, like it was just a really hectic day, but we made it. And that night, we shot all of the night scenes. So the demon, all of the deaths, like everything you see in the woods was like in one night. So that was pretty gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was actually Jake, who was also a grip on the shoot. So the first day, he was a grip. He was running around, giving people,
our demon was our grip.
Getting people water. And then, then the second night, he's the demon. And it's funny, too, an actor friend who I showed the film to said, why didn't we see more of the demon? I'm like, we really couldn't show anymore because if you saw the rest of the demon, he was wearing boxer shorts. So that's why you only saw him from the waist up. He did not have demon legs. He was essentially a demon from the waist up.
And we also had 3 takes of that entire scene, that confrontation. That was it. So yeah, we learned a lot, I think, about working very fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think filmmakers know lighting at night is a nightmare. And so every night scene and we only had like 2 or 3 guys and part of the crew doing that. And it probably took them 3 or 4 hours for every setup. So we were, like you were talking earlier about the running out of light. We were running out of light pretty much the entire shoot. So, and we somehow were able to pull it off.
Nice.
How did you cast the actors? Because they were pretty perfect Instagram model types. Mm-hmm. Did you just have an open call, or did you kind of draw from people you knew?
So we had a casting. We got a casting director, Adrienne Stern, and we basically gave her the description of the characters, and she brought a lot of people in. The lead, Chloe Farnworth, the blonde one, the one that plays Annika. So she's a friend of mine that I've known for a long time. So I kind of brought her in because she's pretty badass. So, but yeah, we casted everyone based on what we wrote, and then luckily we were able to find people that matched.
Nice. I'm going to move on to Lewis. So Lewis, this film, it caught my eye first because I noticed all of the fun horror memorabilia in the background that wasn't necessarily from actual things. and just because of the progression, it's so, it's kind of a typical horror, like ghost in the closet kind of story that turns into something quite different. So what was kind of the germ of your creation here with it?
Well, so I'm a big fan of horror, so I wanted to make a horror short. And I was scouring YouTube and watching loads of them. And I noticed that majority of them sort of followed the structure. And I got to a point of it where I was like, I could predict what was happening. So I basically thought, what if I could do all the setups and then flip it at the end? And that was basically the germ of the idea. And then sort of like the kernel of it is sleep paralysis. And then that kind of just springboarded from there, and then just let the imagination run wild.
We noticed you snuck a Necronomicon in there as well. Are you a fan of like the Evil Dead kind of?
Yeah, with the crash theme's not obvious that I love Sam Raimi. It's because I basically in the script I wrote it that it was a version of the Book of the Dead, and then Gareth, the who made that. He made that out of, it's an actual book that's he covered in foam latex, and he's like, should I just make the Necronomicon? And I was like, yeah, go on then. Why not?
Very, very nice. And so the actor that you had, was he also actually was that his wheelchair, or was he?
No, that's
just acting.
He's just acting. Yeah, that's my wheelchair. I bought that from a guy in where was it? Just some guy on Gumtree for £20. That wheelchair. It's in my it's in the lockup downstairs. Because I was gonna hire one, but it's like £100 a day to hire it. So I just bought it, and which is good. Fortunate because we broke it as well. So,
oh, no.
So yeah, that's the actor's Joe. He's a young guy who can walk. He's very able.
Very nice. Let's see, and Nicholas, you just muted yourself, but I'm gonna call on you next. So this film was a really interesting look at what it would be like for someone's first night as a vampire, and we both really loved how we kind of got that like the sleeping in the porta potty, which was so gross, and opening the door thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna go out in the sun, and then all of a sudden burning up and screaming, and then having to withdraw inside. Was this script something that you had in mind for a while? Is it something that you created in reaction to just all the vampire stuff that's out there?
So the script was actually written by a close friend of mine, Jared Nix. It was originally written as a feature film, and he was reading to me one scene from that feature script involving this girl starting her first night as a vampire and kind of spending it in a porta potty at a gas station. I was like, oh my God, this would make a great short film, like kind of proof of concept, perhaps for something more. And we both agreed to, help. He agreed to help fund the project, and I ended up workshopping that script with him to turn it into what was eventually my senior thesis film, First Night.
Okay, nice.
What was the blood budget on the film? That was you had a lot of fake blood on there.
That was like a $500 blood budget.
No,
that's what we paid. That's what we paid Jenny. That's what we paid Jenny.
It was about $2,000 worth of. I'm just kidding. It was less than that. But we did use a sizable amount of fake blood.
Of many different varieties.
Everything that Nick and I have worked on has used far too much fake blood. We have spent a lot of money on it, I'm sure, and so have all of you.
It's a real struggle.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been informed that there's actually no audio in the YouTube feed, so we are going to swap out the iPad that I'm using and the laptop that Brian's using. So we're just going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Are there commercials?
Okay, so you guys don't go anywhere. That was for the viewers. I'm not sure what's happening.
Nicholas,
I'm gonna hold this.
can you hear me? What was the shit? What was the shit in the?
The shit was my God, it was like a mix of peanut butter, corn. Man, I'd have to ask Jenny, the makeup artist. She had like 3 different options on the day, and they were all something completely different. I can't remember what we went with. I went with the one with the most corn because it was the grossest by far.
Oh, so good and gross. So cringy.
The sound design was super fun for that. Spent like 3 hours in the sound booth with like homemade slime.
Feedback.
It was all over the place. I could just smell her. I was just like, she's hey.
That's perfect. Yeah, it was disgusting.
Right. She was stinking.
It was a real problem on set. Yeah.
I had to go here though.
Did you guys buy the rights to Monster Mash?
We did not. We
No.
did not buy the rights to Monster Mash.
No.
We were just
Currently
trying-
being sued by Monster.
Yeah, I was
Mash.
gonna say, Bobby Boris
We have
Pickett
an
is rising
ongoing
from the dead.
lawsuit with all of the monsters in Monster Mash.
That's funny. I was like,
Frankenstein's lawyer.
when I
Yeah,
popped out, I'm
not
like,
some-
Jesus,
No
what
way.
kind of budget they got here? They're buying the Monster Mash. Damn.
No, the budget was not high.
Well, we all know whatever the budget was supposed to be, it didn't turn out to be that way.
No.
Never.
Not even close.
Yeah.
It's all right.
It was
though.
funny when when Katie and I met our first AD. They put together this budget, and we're like, "Really? We didn't expect that." And they're like, "There's yeah, that's what it's supposed to be." I'm like, "Oh boy." I'm like, "Okay." We figured it out somehow.
Surprisingly expensive.
Yeah, then she also scared. I'm sure you guys run into this too. Is like, there's no way you guys can shoot this in 3 days. Like, why? There's only just a few setups, and like, nope, you can't do it. And
No, it was. I think for us, it was 13 overnights.
We had about 13
Wow.
overnight.
Okay, all right, we are back
Wow.
and we have audio now. we are streaming again live, and are there viewers in the? Okay, so if you're viewing this right now and you want to type in a chat window to ask the filmmakers questions, if you hover over your left-hand side of the screen, there should be a text link that says PHFF Live Q&A /1. If you click on that, that will pop you out and you can watch the video on YouTube, and there will be a chat window right next to the video viewer. So if you'd like to do that, if you'd like to ask a question, you can do it that way. That's probably the easiest way. And Brian will be monitoring that and letting me know what your questions are. Because otherwise, I'm just gonna keep asking you guys questions. So I think we were Nicholas. You had talked about your blood budget.
Oh.
And
Hi.
so let's introduce ourselves all again. I think because there's no audio before, people might be confused about what's going on. So
Happens sometimes.
Martin Vavra from Benehooy, raise your hand. Katie Delaloye from Witches of Bushwick.
Hello.
Bushes of Witchwick. Lewis Taylor, Sleep Tight, joining us from the UK. And Joe Bose and Nicholas Henderson from First Night. Got Neil Green, also he was the Benehooy. And Kenniki Jones from Knock Knock, joining us from Florida. Joe Pardavila, who's also Witches of Bushwick. And Kate
Babicz.
Babicz, thank you, from Attachment, and she is coming from Poland.
It's like 7 in the morning here, so I think I have a different light than most of the guys there. So
Definitely. So Kenniki, I wanted to ask you about your film, and it was a student project, yes?
Yep, it was my thesis.
Okay. And are you still a student, or are you graduated? And
I've graduated, and I'm back in Detroit.
Oh, you're back in Detroit. Okay, excellent. So tell us a little bit about your film. Like, it's kind of got it addresses some complex issues, and it also manages to be extremely creepy and unnerving at the same time, which is lovely.
Yeah, so it was pretty much inspired by a true story that was haunting me. Back in 2015, there was a woman in Detroit whose children, 2 of her children, were discovered in the freezer after 2 years, and she had killed them because she thought that the oldest one and the other child was abusing her youngest child. And I would just watch all of the news. It was like all this news coverage about her, and she was not very remorseful at all. And she was just kind of, you would think she was insane, but she was like, I deserve what I got, but I also would do it again. So then I went down the rabbit hole and I started like stalking her life, and I went on her Facebook page, and she was a completely different person. She looked sweeter. She looked softer. Her name was Michelle Blair, and parentheses, she was like anything for my kids, and all of her posts were like kid related and how much she loved being a mom. And I just couldn't understand who were these two people that existed in this neighborhood. And when they did interviews, people, her nickname in the neighborhood was Angel. And when she was getting evicted, and that's how they ended up discovering the bodies. But while they were evicting her and throwing out her things, she was babysitting other kids in the neighborhood. And, she lived in a housing complex. So, low income housing projects where you live extremely close to one another. So I just kept asking how and why. And I'm a mom, and she was a single mom, and she was homeschooling. And I just felt close to her. Like I'm only so many degrees away from being in her situation, or could have possibly. I went to high school down the street from where she lived and where the children were discovered. And, I was a single mom for many years. I was a teen mom. So I just, you just never know how you could be in somebody else's shoes if only a few things were different in your life. So that's kind of where the story was hatched, and those were the things I wanted to address, and I wanted to make it, like a social justice horror, I guess. So that you just should be knocking. Now of course you can't go see anybody, but if you see something, say something. If you hear something, do something. So that's kind of where it was born out of.
Well, I think it was very effective in kind of showing you the side of her that's really caring and protective of the children versus the side that you discover is the one that is perpetrating the horror towards the children. And also in conveying that sense of like, that could be me, like I identify with this, and like there is kind of that sense of imbalance and almost vertigo when you realize what's happening. So it's very nicely done. Very nicely done. Joe, did you have anything to add about Witches of Bushwick? I don't know why I can't say that.
Yeah, no, it's a tough title to do. Yeah, well, so Katie and I met if you live in New York City, you could pretty much have a class, you could go to a class for everything. So we met at a screenwriting class many years ago, and we'd always kicked around, hey, we should do a film. And at the time, I was hosting a podcast with a sex researcher in New York, and her assistant and I just got connected over social media. And when you go to Instagram, it'll give you suggested friends and, explore tab and everything like that. So I clicked on the explore tab one day, and all of a sudden I see all these witches. It's just all these beautiful young women. They're all witches, hashtag witches of Instagram. And a lot of them lived in Brooklyn. So that sort of gave me the idea of what would happen if these witches of Brooklyn, or just these modern day witches, were to run into a real witch. And then, Katie ran with the idea about, putting them in the middle of nowhere. And like you guys and a lot of the filmmakers, we had originally thought, whoa, this could be a feature. And they're like, we can't afford to make a feature. So we scaled it down to make it into a short film.
Very nice. I'm going to skip ahead because we are running a little bit out of time. Do we have any questions in the chat? Oh, okay. But Katie?
Yes.
Kate, I'm sorry. It's funny because when you guys are sending your information, and it's usually, sometimes it's a different name than what you go by. So like your official name versus your actual name. But Attachment was also a student film from the Warsaw School of Film. Is that your senior thesis as well?
Yes, as well as the as most of you guys, maybe not most, but some of you thought that you made a thesis of your movie. So yes, I was in the last year Warsaw Film School, and it was a short movie. I had like probably it was around like $2,000 to make this movie, really. And so it's like maybe 10,000 zlotys, because we have zlotys in Poland, and and it was really hard. It was like 4 days shooting at night, over hours, working over hours, and I had actors that was a blessing because I knew them. I knew the girl because I worked with her like 2 years ago, and it was a blessing because we had the connection, the connection that not always is possible on the set. But it was like pretty it was like a pretty hard job to do this movie.
That's good.
So you only had four days shooting.
4 days shooting, yes, from last year, and it was like 4 days autumn, extremely bad weather, extremely difficult house to shoot in because it was really dark and it was night scenes mostly. So it was like it was like a nightmare sometimes, but we had a good time. A nightmare because it was a horror movie, but we had a good time. It was also difficult due to the makeup. And I'm not, it was last year. Now I would change a lot of things, like most of you guys, I think. But, it was like these days I did everything I could to make this movie what it is. And it was just, it was a good experience for me as a really young director who just graduated school, like some months ago.
It was a beautiful movie, like beautifully shot.
Thank you very much.
Brian's going to relate a question to me from our audience.
So Danielle asked, so Kenniki already dealt with that a little bit, but Danielle asked how many of the films are based on real life experiences.
Okay. Danielle is asking how many of your films are based on real life experiences? Yeah. Martin, I think you're muted.
Oh, yeah. So oddly enough, Benehooy is based on a true story. I used to have a buddy, and we would drive to the coast. We would go scuba diving together, and every time we drove through a tunnel, he would honk going through the tunnel. And I just I didn't snap, but I was just like, why do you do this every time you go through? And I hear other people do it. I was like, why are you doing it? And he literally told me, he's like, oh, that keeps the Benehooy away. And I was like, what are you even talking about? And he goes, look, here's the story. And he had a sister that had passed away very, very young, and who I had never even knew or met. And he said, she just used to do these things. And after she passed away, I started doing things that she was doing just as kind of a tribute to her. And he's like, now I just honk a horn every time I go into a tunnel. And that was 16 years ago that happened. And then flash forward to about 2012 is when I wrote that script.
Did you ever stop honking the horn to see if the Benehooy would arrive?
I am not a horn honker in tunnels.
So you're just welcoming the Benehooy into your life?
You know what? I'm living the most dangerous life I can, I guess.
Wow. Spooky.
So Nisu has a question.
Okay, Nisu has a question.
Which was this is for Witches of Bushwick.
This is for Witches of Bushwick.
Was the final girl spared because she didn't insult the new girl?
He asks, was the final girl spared because she didn't insult the new girl? Like what was their dynamic?
Yeah, pretty much. I think it was kind of like her initiation as well into the night to see how she would be. So yeah, she was the only one that treated her with respect, and also she was really interested in the real arts. She wanted to find a deeper meaning to it, while everybody else was very commercializing the whole thing. So that's why she survived. And hopefully they'll go on and create a real coven and take over the world. That's my hope.
The thing was, it was the test was on them, not on Margaret's character. So basically, she was the one who passed the test.
Yeah, so it was an initiation that looks like it was like Margaret's, but it was really their initiation in the woods.
Interesting. I just want to come back to Katie or Kate, Kasia. With attachment, like there's a lot of kind of underlying messages in your film. Is that something that you've brought with you for a long time, or is that something that you just kind of developed in the script, or were these themes of identity and desire, and kind of once you get what you want, it becomes monstrous? Is that something that you wanted to explore in particular?
Yes, I've had this idea for some time. I think it was over a year or maybe 2 years. I don't really know where it came from, but I'm really obsessed by this very intimate relationships among people. And to me, showing and going into some intimate relationship is something maybe more strong, more powerful than talking about society itself. So I think that this kind of relationship I wanted to portray, and it's the weird thing is that the whole story is it's about disappointment. The woman in the movie, is she really like this, or maybe it's just a metaphor of our disappointment, as simple as life itself. It's everyone can read this movie how he or she wants. To me, this is a story of how even beautiful things and beautiful changes in life can be very quickly usual as past, and it's something that I observed, and it's so simple, but I think I wanted to, I really felt relate to this, and I wanted to talk about this in the form of a horror movie, because what I think, you can have any phobia, any kind of mental illness, any kind of theme really, and you can put it the theme from real life, you can put it in the form of a horror movie, like directors of German expressionism did. They just wanted to put a simple subject and just make something different from it, maybe more intriguing. So I wanted to do the same. That's why I didn't do some classical drama movie. That's why I've made the story in a form of a horror movie.
Nice. I think it's really interesting how your film and Kenniki's film kind of dovetail and kind of mirror each other in a way. And one of the things about horror films, for me at least, is that you can kind of delve into these things and have that surface of story on top of the deeper meanings. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Working out some of the kinks on opening night. And we're still back with Nicholas and Kate and Lewis and Martin and Neil. So Nicholas, I haven't really, and Kenniki, hi. I didn't really get
Kenniki, hi.
We didn't really get to talk to Nicholas a ton about your film. Did anyone else have, so Martin, you said Benehooy is based on a true story, and Kenniki as well. How about Nicholas and Kate? Were there things that you drew from real life, from your own life, into the film at all?
Nothing for me. All fiction over here. Very fictional.
To me, I think it was kind of, it wasn't my own story too. It wasn't my own story, my own life, but it was something that I've observed from the life of the people close to me. So I think that this kind of portrait of dying relationship was something that I knew, not particularly for my life, but something that that was well known in my life observations. So it was kind of intimate too.
Nice. Do you guys have questions for each other? Are there any other questions in the chat?
Not just yet.
Oh, okay.
But that scene in Nicholas's film, where she jumps on and
Oh, yeah.
around. Like, that's such a cool.
So in First Night, there's a scene in the convenience store where the convenience store clerk has cut himself and he's just gushing blood. And I'm assuming that's where most of your blood budget went.
That was like 3 or 4 days of blood work.
And you pull back and you see this scene from outside of the store where she just kind of runs up like a gymnast and just jumps on his back, and then you cut back to the point of view camera in his face and it's just spinning around, and that was just so excellent. Can you talk a little bit about how you decided to go that way with it, decided to shoot it that way, and then how you actually accomplished that?
It was one of the original ideas of the film that kind of propelled us into that situation. Yeah, really early on, we knew we had to build a specialized camera rig for that, because I'm not aware of anything that you can purchase that would achieve that exact look. So we reached out to a close friend of ours, Jake Bisson, who does specialized camera rigging and equipment design. And it was basically like, oh my God, it was a 360.
We can't design it. We can't tell you how it worked.
It was a 360-degree camera rig. So we had a camera on one arm rotating around the actors, which were on like this 2-level tiered seating platform.
We're friends with a blacksmith who is much smarter than both of us. We came to him with this one idea and he did it for us.
But it was great. Yeah, and that it was weeks of building to get that thing just right, and would we have like 20 to 30 minutes to actually get that shot because we had a hard out at the gas station location.
Yeah,
it was a super rough day.
Yeah, we were getting rushed out of that location like crazy.
And we're like, fuck, we spent like $1,000.
We spent
on this fucking camera rig
making that camera rig.
And the owner's like, you gotta get out of here.
It was really like, making this film was pure hell, and that night that we used that rig in that gas station
because we
just pure hell.
We lost a vampire tooth midway through.
We lost props.
We're under the gun, and our actress, a vampire tooth, had fallen out, and everybody's just on hands and knees crawling across this bloody floor looking for a single little vampire tooth because we fucking need it to get through the scene, just in case anybody pixel fucking the screen and sees a tooth missing. We gotta have it. And it fell into her like coat pocket or something. But it was just so intense. Just that one scene, that one shot was just the biggest pain in the ass.
We had a lot of heavy duty rigs that were just used for either one shot or basically just one shot per heavy duty rig, and sometimes it only lasted for 5 seconds. Sometimes it was only for like 20-second shot.
Our buddy Jake, he also built a crane, which is what we used in that street shot where we pull from the theater down as the main character is running, like checking for unlocked cars. All completely hand built. He got us through the movie.
How many days was the whole shoot?
How many days was your whole shoot for First Night?
13 overnights.
Wow.
That's just for the days we were shooting. In terms of like the first day we shot, the film was shot. Day one was May 26th, 2018, and then our final day of shooting was June 17th.
It was November
2018. We had a pickup day in November.
We had to go back to the gas station to get all the bloody shots.
Blocked that out.
Yeah, there was like a 4 or 5 month block where we weren't shooting because our actress had moved from Milwaukee to North Dakota. We had to go drive her down. It was a whole mess, whole thing to get like, I don't know, the last like 12 or 13 shots.
It took a while.
Wow.
It was an endeavor.
What is that actress's name?
Elise McCardle.
And has she been in other things as well? Have you worked with her before, or is this the first time?
This was her first time acting in anything. She had never done any films. She had never done any theater performances.
Oh, wow.
This was her first time doing anything.
Oddly enough, she had actually come across the film through a Craigslist a Craigslist post. She's a literary theater major, and she was writing people's final papers, and she saw like final project as one of the headers. She clicked on it, and it was my senior films casting post, and she was like, oh, that sounds kind of fun. And she ended up being the best audition out of everyone that we went through, and she was a total team player throughout the whole thing. She was expecting like 3 to 4 people, crew size, going in, and she was super, super intimidated on the first day. We had like 30 people on the thing. But I mean, she was a real champ throughout. I love this Pop-Tart. You can't speak without Pop-Tart. I love it. It's so good.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, I'm eating a Fruit Loops Pop-Tart. It's amazing. I didn't even know they made Fruit Loops Pop-Tarts until today. And
Elise was not the best audition. She was not the best audition, but she was right for the part.
Okay.
Well, she was so enthusiastic about it, and that was the biggest thing, because we had told her, like, hey, you're going to have to stick your foot in a porta potty, and you're gonna have to lick
down for that.
Lick blood clean off the floor, and every time I kept
she was the only person who was like, I'll lick blood off the floor. So we were like, okay, cool.
That's where the coronavirus.
Yeah, she was so enthusiastic that it was the clear choice. Despite her not having any experience in film or theater, her enthusiasm carried her through the entire project in a huge way.
Kenniki, do you have a question?
Now I got another porta potty question. So was
here we go. Yeah.
That porta potty was a brand new porta potty? And y'all
man. Nope. Definitely not brand new. I was calling every single person in my contact book. I'm like, do you know where we can get a porta potty? Because rentals were too much, and to get any of the shots we needed.
We couldn't afford to rent a porta potty, so we found one in the woods about 3 hours away. In like the driftless area of Wisconsin,
so covered in weeds.
We had someone go drive a truck out to this crazy area of Wisconsin, and I don't know how it got to set, and I produced the film. I don't know how that porta potty got to set.
Somebody had a trailer, I think.
Well, some of our friends who we trusted just got the porta potty to set. And then if you go to our Facebook page, the First Night Facebook page, there's video of us trying to clean the porta potty. It was disgusting.
Gnarly.
It had been sitting in some wooded area for God knows how long. Who knows how many people had stayed in there. We don't know. So
that sounds like a whole movie unto itself.
First thing we had to do was we had these some friends of ours who were working on the film. I think it was the director of photography and the assistant director, who they hauled it in from a couple hours away from somewhere in the driftless area of Wisconsin to Mugwanago, where we had the gas station shoot, Mugwanago, Wisconsin.
About 40 minutes out of Milwaukee.
And once we dropped it off in Mugwanago, I got us a pressure washer, and there's a video on our Facebook page of Nick just like spraying down the porta potty. You'd love it. He's spraying it down, and there's spider webs that are like flying. You see them flying out like toward the camera. It was so disgusting.
It was a total shit show.
Yeah, it's
unintended. Yeah, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
And then after we had gotten it like spit shine clean, we just re-dirtied it when our production designer got it all shitty again. Had like shit handprints and graffiti, and we just made it artificially dirty again.
Very convincing.
It was a good time.
So much fun. Love it. So many holes cut in so many different like weird places on that thing.
That was great.
We made that thing our bitch.
Oh, goodness. Someone just asked if Kate stayed up for the Q&A or if you got up early for the Q&A.
I got up early for the Q&A. Yeah.
And do you normally get up pretty early, or are you more of a night person?
Yes, usual. Well, we now is a crazy time because we have pandemic and all of the disturbing things in the world. So nowadays, most of the film sets in Poland are cancelled. They're coming back in some small number, but now I'm at my parents' house. I have a few days break, and soon I'm coming back to work. But for now but I was glad to to get up early.
Well, we
I'm
are
not an
happy
early
that you
bird.
did.
Yes, I'm very, very happy because in Poland it's like your Pacific time, it's like 10 hours like before our time. So we have the 11th June, and we have like yes, now it's 7:44.
Was she a woman in horse? Right?
I think so.
So talk about that.
I think so. Oh, so I think, Kate, were you did you submit through the Women in Horror month for our festival?
Yes, well, I was, I think, Women in Horror Festival. Yes, I think I've submitted, but I was there for sure. I was there with my previous short horror movie, because Attachment was not the first one. The first one was Inappetence. That was a really short, 6-minute student short about a girl suffering from anorexia. And it was also very weird, very unorthodox, weird movie. And it was like, I think I was also in Texas with this movie. I couldn't go there, but I was like with Women in Horror Texas edition. And in some different, from last movie, Inappetence was also awarded on Atlanta Horror Film Festival for the best student movie. And I have this award still to receive, because I couldn't go there this time. I was graduate. I was also at school those days. So I hope that after this whole crazy period, after this whole crazy pandemic, I would be able to go to the States, because also Cleveland International Film Festival missed me because it was online version 2 months ago.
Oh, someone just asked if your 6-minute short is online somewhere where they can watch it, or are you holding off on releasing that?
No, yes, sure. I have a link to that because it's also school second-year school movie. So if we get touch on Facebook, which I would love to be with you guys, so I could just, if you have some, you have some other movies to show, and I also have this few movies to show. We can exchange information, and I can send you a link any minute.
Ask her and Kenniki if they feel pressured.
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yeah. Brian was relating a question to me. It's hard.
Okay.
So one of the other questions is for Kate and Kenniki, and for any of you guys who have worked with women filmmakers in the past too. Like, do you feel like there's different pressure on you because you're a woman filmmaker, woman director? How does that affect your art?
Kenniki?
I don't know if there's pressure. I mean, my own self, I always have my own pressure, just period. I don't know what a man feels when he is, kind of developing or writing or trying to tell a story. So I think it just comes with pressure just in general, as a human being, and wanting to do something that makes a difference and, it speaks to people. So I don't, but I do know that it was important for me to tell the story, and it was a woman's story, and I felt close to it, so it felt like close to my story, so it felt truthful, and I felt confident in telling the story, and it took me a long time to kind of find my voice, in a sense of like just even like my Black voice, like I talk a certain way, I do a certain thing, like people operate a certain way in my neighborhood or my culture. It doesn't have to be Black, just kind of cultural as well. So now that I feel comfortable with expressing that, I try not to give into the pressure. I just think that's artistry at the same time too. So yeah.
Kenniki, do you have other films that people can see as well?
I do. I have I don't have I have the links. They have a password though. I have another short. It's a little shorter than this one. It's a comedy though. And then my first short, but So, but yes, I have one.
Nothing you're willing to share.
I have the same with my first short. Like I try not to remember about this.
And for the rest of you, is this like one in a string of many short films for you? Is this your first short film or second short film? Guys?
Who's going first?
How about Martin? Was this your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, millionth short film?
This is my 6th short film. I have a featured documentary about the Godzilla and the cultural relevance of Godzilla in Japan that we filmed a few years ago for the 60th anniversary of the first film. I've got a number of web series, some that are about comic book artists, and I've got a zombie web series, and yeah, I've got a lot of stuff out there. Plus, I do a lot of content for Nike and Adidas and Microsoft and those kind of things that pay the bills. So yeah, I got a lot of stuff out there.
Nice. How about Lewis? How about you?
Me? Well, this is my first with a crew because I'm from an animation background originally. And yeah, definitely I'll give you a link to all that stuff.
like Tim Burton, like Tim Burton.
Far less money than he's got. But yeah, no, this is the first with the crew, and hopefully a couple more. We were planning on another one, but all the craziness has happened, so sort of hit a bit of a snag in the road, really. But
maybe talking about the pandemic.
So is everyone.
And Nicholas and Joe, have you guys made a lot of films before?
This was my first short film with a properly delegated crew. A lot of the stuff I'd done at University of Milwaukee was just me with a camera and maybe a couple of roommates. But we really wanted to push the limits with this one. Otherwise, I dabble a lot in hand-drawn animation as well, and I've been working on those projects over the years. But this one was just me trying to push myself out of my comfort zone in terms of crew size and ambition.
For me, this was I mean, in terms of being a student, we've made countless student films. But First Night was kind of like my third official short film. My first film I made was a zombie movie. It was a horror comedy called American Zombies. And then I made a second short film that I recently posted online called Pharma Lab Training Video 1. Which is just it's a really tough satire of the pharmaceutical industry, manufacturing industry. It's pretty relevant today. So my writing, directing, and producing past has always been like horror comedy, sci-fi comedy. But this is my third production. First Night was my third production, but it was my first time doing something outside of comedy. And it was really interesting to take a step back from the directing role, let Nick take care of all of that. So that kind of sums up my filmmaking past. But right now I'm actually working on a written work, a book called The Garbage List, which is a nonfiction political satire on 20 essays on garbage about American culture. So, we'll see how it goes.
It was really interesting how their short took place in one room. And talk about the filming and the location of that.
Who's short? Sleep Tight. Oh, so Danielle asked about Sleep Tight. It was interesting how basically the whole film just takes place in that one room. What was that like filming in there? Was that an actual room or was that a set?
That's an actual room. It's a guy called George who's he works with like touring bands, so he doesn't have his room a lot of times. So we came in there and basically feng shuied the whole thing, took everything out, put all our stuff in, and then shot for 2 days afterwards in the room. It was really, really hot, which is rare in England.
So how many people were in the room when you were shooting? Because you've got the 2 actors and then the cameraman, obviously, but who else?
Let me think.
Were you in there as well?
Yeah. There's Nick, the DP's on the camera, focus puller, camera assistant, sound, AD, me, script suit, 2 acts. It's amazing. You get a big room and you stick all the lights in and it gets really small really quickly.
Oh my goodness. That sounds like a lot. I mean, I guess that's why you have to have a lot of tight shots.
That's why
not a ton of wide shots.
Yeah, I think that the widest is the shot of the hand coming out. That's the widest we could get, and that was literally the camera against the wall, and Nick's like holding it like this, and I'm stood over him with my legs apart, so he's in between my legs, and I've got the little monitor like this, and yeah, that was as wide as we could get.
Oh my goodness. So I'm gonna. Was there another? Oh, so in March, at some point in March, like most of the USA got locked down and everyone got told to stay at home for the quarantine and don't breathe on each other and don't spit on each other. Were you working, this question is for all of you, were you working on a project at the time, and how has this lockdown kind of affected your film life and your career?
It's been awesome. It's been great. I ditched filmmaking so I could work on a book. So this pandemic has been awesome for writing a book. It's been great. I'm missing out on anything.
I guess I've also had a good experience with it.
We're really benefiting from this pandemic.
I mean, I've had just a ton of time to reinvigorate my love for hand-drawn animation. And my biggest issue was always not having enough time. Because work always got in the way, but now since there's no film jobs, I have no excuses and there's nothing but time now. So it's sort of been an odd blessing in disguise creatively, not financially, not at all.
No, it's bad.
It's still very bad.
We are very broke.
Yeah.
Same here.
Hemorrhoids. We have hemorrhoids.
Nope.
Show it.
How about you, Kate?
Well, broke too. I'm be serious. I'm working on the next script. It will be a feature movie, also a weirdo horror movie, and I also write some novels. I write poems, which I hope will be released in some months, because I'm also writing things, so like my previous friend said. So I'm also trying hard to do something in this empty hole. So, but I'm focusing on the next script, because in autumn we have the competition. In Poland we have the big competition for the full feature script, and if you win this, you will make a movie, and you will have money for the next movie. So I'm just focusing on that. We'll see what's gonna happen.
Well, we're gonna wait and see what happens too. We hope that you come out on top.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Kenniki?
Yeah, I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
All right. So, it's kind of weird, I like work gigs. So it's kind of like I was doing a little bit of this and a little bit of teaching and a little bit of directing for theater and some editing. So a lot of those people try to, I was teaching acting for a theater company for young artists. So we found a way to kind of start to record lessons. So that allowed me to continue to make money. But that just that course ended. And then I was teaching a class at Wayne State University, and so they went online. So they adjusted as well. And And then a friend of mine's who has a theater company. We were in rehearsal for their short play that we were doing for students as well. And so he recently got some funding, and so now he wants to shoot it, which is really cool. So it gives me some work to do. So yeah, I think everybody's trying to be as creative as possible and adjust. And there are moments where I feel like, oh, I can write, I can do this, and then there are moments where I feel, not just the pandemic, but now these other movements that are happening, with the riots and the protests and all that has been kind of emotionally draining. But it's been so emotional, it's forcing me to write now. So it's kind of like forcing me to do just kind of shorthand poetry and just like, I'm like throwing it up. So yeah, I think, and I live in Michigan and Detroit, so I didn't move to those meccas like LA or anything. So I already was trying to be creative with, working in the industry from home, from the city of Detroit. So one pandemic don't stop no show.
Martin or Lewis or Neil, how about you guys? Were you working on something up to the pandemic? Are you working on anything now?
I was just getting ready to start rehearsals for theater, a musical that would last weekend was opening weekend, so we were just getting ready to start rehearsals on that. But I've kind of like what Nick was saying, I've taken this time to kind of refocus creatively, and being on the actor side of things, it's very easy to get very kind of like narrow-minded on what you're trying to do. And so I've been studying script, I've been learning how to write, and just trying to understand a little bit more on what everybody else has to go through on set, and especially the creative process. So when things do start back up again, which they will, I have a better perspective, I think, on what everybody else has to deal with and their whole creative process to get to where they're at that brought us all here today. So I've been trying to take advantage of that. It kind of ebbs and flows, though, so yeah. And we have 9 minutes. I just see a note.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have about 9 minutes to wrap
now.
this up.
Yeah, so take it away, Lewis.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Yeah, so I was working on with this roughly the same team, a romantic comedy live action animation hybrid short film, and that's kind of hit a snag now. So in the meantime, I'm just writing stuff. I'm writing actually the feature version of Sleep Tight, because I did Sleep Tight originally just as a short, and I was like, no, I'm never going to do a feature version of it. And my friend went, oh yeah, never work. And I was like, all right, okay. So I'm sort of doing it as a challenge to myself, really. But yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Yeah. Well, I think that we are going to wrap up. We've been talking for quite a while. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us on this chat and putting up with getting kicked out and rejoining. And thank you for coming back and talking with us some more.
Yeah, sorry about Brian. The wrinkles. Hi, Brian, for people who haven't seen me yet. Yeah, everything always works when you're testing, but it never works when you're live.
But I tell you what, this has been an absolute pleasure. It's been, Martin, thanks for asking me if I wanted to sit in on this. It's been interesting for me listening to your guys' perspective, and I've been a fly on the wall loving this. So thanks for putting this all together. This has been great. It's been a pleasure meeting each one of you.
Likewise. Thank you
Great
so
in the
much.
future.
I wish we could meet someday in after all of this in Portland or somewhere else.
Yeah, you guys come party in Milwaukee. Don't be up in Milwaukee.
Excellent.
Yeah,
If the filmmakers, we have
Get over here,
an
Lewis.
event set up for
Hey,
Portland.
Neil. I'm sitting one.
So for the filmmakers, we have an event set up in Facebook. If you want to post something in there and just kind of pop in and say, hi, I'm Martin, I'm Lewis, I'm Kate, I'm Nicholas, I'm Kenniki. Neil, and just kind of post something in there so that people, if you want people to find you on Facebook, they have a way to contact you if they want to ask you more questions or see your films.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, by the way, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations for all of your wonderful movies.
Yes.
Oh,
Thanks
thank you.
Thanks to all of you for taking part of our festival. It's such a weird year, and like I think like a lot of festivals, we didn't know how this was all going to shake out. You know, if we were going to be able to do a festival like this, or if we had to wait to do it next year. The fact that we had so many filmmakers kind of rally behind us, and you guys included, really gives us a lot of comfort too. So it's great to be sort of here doing this with you, and thanks for being part of our first night go around, and helping us shake down the ship, as it were.
Well, give yourselves a round of applause.
All right, you guys. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Well done.
Thank you, guys.
Be good.
Be
See
safe.
y'all
Bye.
soon.
Anytime,
Good night.
Take it easy.
Good night.
Good morning for me.
Morning.
Good morning to Lewis and Kate.
And,
Good morning. Good morning and good night to all of you.
Take care, everybody.
and for the audience, if you just got a preview night ticket and you want to see the rest of the festival, those tickets are available on the Hollywood Theater website. You can peruse the schedule at portlandhorror.com/schedule.
Yep.
And find more information there.
Yep.
Thank you so much for making this
Thanks,
first
everyone.
night
Thank you so
amazing.
much.
Cheers.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.